Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Before we get into tonight's game, I wanted to ask a question. Do you have extra cards lying around that you don't use? Want to buy or trade for some extra cards but don't know how to maximize the value? Then you should try out today's sponsor, Card Conduit. Card Conduit is the best service when it comes to selling your extra cards. Don't waste hours trying to find the best buy list price for your cards online. Simply send them to Card Conduit and let them take care of the rest. I have used Card Conduit multiple times already. I always use them to get the best value for my extra cards. I get fair prices for my cards and they save me tons of time. They have three main services. Their standard service lets you send them your unsorted cards of any value. They will sort, grade, and give you the best price for your cards. Their curated service is similar. Send them your unsorted cards worth over $1 in value. They will charge half the fee of the standard service and charge no fee per card. Their sorted service is a great value as well. Choose cards in advance with their selection tool, send them sorted to Card Conduit, and they will grade and buy list them automatically. Save yourself the time of having to send to multiple sites and let Card Conduit do it instead. Their fee is only 2% with no fee per card. They give you the best price for your cards. They work with competitive buy listing partners, including ones not open to the public. Users get an average of 19% more for their collection than they would from any major retail buy list, even with Card Conduit's fees. Card Conduit also optimizes buy listing for card condition as well. Since vendors have different penalties for wear and tear, Card Conduit will find the best buy list priced against the specific condition of the card. So give Card Conduit a try today. If you sign up with my link in the description below or use the promo code POWER, you will also get 10% off of their fees when you use their service. A big thanks to Card Conduit for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First, we have Drake pounding Yorion Death and Taxes. This deck looks to play Hate Bears to control the game and to slow down and beat its opponent. Drake's opening hand contains a snow-covered plains, Rishadan Port, Swords to Plowshares, Seasoned Dungeoneer, and 2 Stoneforge Mystics. After that, we have Ashani piloting Curses. This deck looks to turbo out a few stacks pieces early to take control of the game, then use Curses to gain advantage and win. Ashani's opening hand contains a Swamp, Dark Ritual, Trinisphere, Leyline of the Void, Hagra Mauling, and his London Mulligan is a Chrome Mox and a Chalice of the Void. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of when we publish more content. Also, check us out on Twitter, find us on Facebook, and watch our dank memes and hot takes on TikTok. Without further ado, let's kick off this leisurely lethal lyrical liaison. Drake had the most cardigans in his closet and gets to start us off. But Drake and Ashani have pre-game actions. Drake reveals and announces Yorion the Sky Nomad as his companion. Ashani puts Leyline of the Void onto the battlefield. Drake plays a Plains. He passes the turn. Ashani draws and plays a Swamp. He casts a Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He casts a Trinisphere. He gives the turn to Drake. Drake draws and plays a Rishadan Port. He ends his turn. During Ashani's upkeep, Drake activates Rishadan Port, tapping down Ashani's Swamp. Ashani draws and plays a Hagra Brood Pit, into play tapped. He passes the turn. Drake draws and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He casts a Stoneforge Mystic. Stoneforge enters and he fetches up a Cauldron Complete into his hand. He ships the turn to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays a City of Traders. He casts Hagra Mauling, destroying Stoneforge Mystic. He passes the turn to Drake. Drake draws and casts another Stoneforge Mystic. It enters and he fetches up a Batterskull into his hand. He gives the turn back to Ashani. Ashani draws and casts Chalice of the Void, where X equals 2. He ends his turn. Drake draws and activates Stoneforge Mystic, putting Cauldron Complete from his hand onto the battlefield. Living Weapon triggers, and Drake creates a 0/0 Phyrexian Germ and attaches Cauldron Complete to it. He moves to combat and attacks Ashani with Cauldra. Ashani takes the damage, and Drake passes the turn. Ashani draws, takes no actions, and passes. Drake draws and plays a Rishadan Port. He moves to combat and attacks Ashani with Cauldra. Ashani takes it, and Drake ends his turn. During Ashani's upkeep, Drake activates Rishadan Port, tapping down City of Traders. Ashani draws and, seeing his fate, passes the turn. At the end of Ashani's turn, Drake activates Stoneforge Mystic, putting Batterskull from his hand onto the battlefield. Drake draws and moves to combat. He turns everything sideways, finishing Ashani off, and Drake wins the game. Before Game 2, Drake moves to the sideboard. Looking for more flexible removal, he brings in 2 Serenity, a Council's Judgment, and a Palace Jailer. In exchange, he removes 4 Swords to Plowshares. Ashani also moves to the sideboard. He brings in 3 Plague Engineer, 2 Opposition Agent, the Sorcerer's Spyglass, and a Plague Reaver. He knows that Drake is able to play around his stack, so he removes 3 Trinisphere, 2 Chalice of the Void, and 2 Defense Grid. In this game, Ashani's opening hand contains a Leyline of the Void, Plague Engineer, Opposition Agent, Helm of Obedience, Swamp, Ancient Tomb, and his London Mulligan is a Curse of Misfortune. In this game, Drake's opening hand contains an Aether Vial, Solitude, Skyclave Apparition, Plains, Snow-Covered Plains, and his London Mulligans are Plains and Cauldron Complete. And Ashani gets to start us off. But Drake and Ashani have pre-game actions yet again. Drake announces and reveals Yorion as his companion, and Ashani puts Leyline of the Void onto the battlefield. Ashani plays a Swamp as his land for turn. He gives the turn to Drake. Drake draws and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He casts an Ether Vial. He passes the turn. Ashani draws and plays an Ancient Tomb. He ships the turn back. During Drake's upkeep, he adds a charge counter to Aether Vial. He draws and plays a Wasteland. He sacrifices Wasteland, targeting Ashani's Ancient Tomb. In response, Ashani taps his Ancient Tomb to flash in an Opposition Agent. Agent resolves, Ancient Tomb is destroyed, and Drake passes the turn. Ashani draws and moves to combat. He attacks Drake with Opposition Agent. Drake takes the damage, and Ashani ends his turn. During Drake's upkeep, he adds a charge counter to Aether Vial. He draws and plays a Plains. He gives the turn to Ashani. Ashani draws and moves to combat. He attacks Drake with Opposition Agent. Drake takes the damage, and Ashani passes the turn. During Drake's upkeep, he adds a charge counter to Aether Vial. He draws and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He activates Aether Vial, putting a Skyclave Apparition onto the battlefield. Skyclave enters and exiles Opposition Agent. Drake casts a Stoneforge Mystic. Stoneforge enters, and Drake fetches up a Cauldron Complete into his hand. All through, he ships the turn to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays an Ancient Tomb. He taps it to help cast Plague Engineer. Engineer resolves, and Ashani chooses Core. He passes the turn. During Drake's upkeep, he adds a charge counter to Aether Vial. He draws and activates Stoneforge Mystic, putting Cauldron Complete from his hand onto the battlefield. Living Weapon triggers, and Drake creates a 0/0 Phyrexian Germ and attaches Cauldron Complete to it. He moves to combat and attacks Ashani with Cauldron. Ashani takes the hit, and Drake gives the turn to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays a City of Traders. He taps his Ancient Tomb to help cast Helm of Obedience. He activates Helm where X=1, targeting Drake. Because Leyline of the Void is on the battlefield, Drake's top card is sent to exile instead of his graveyard, so he is required to repeat this process until his entire library is put into exile. Ashani, grinning his Leonin grin, passes the turn to Drake. During Drake's upkeep, he adds a charge counter to Aether Vial. He attempts to draw from an empty library, loses, and Ashani wins the game. Before Game 3, Ashani moves to sideboard. He adds a Plague Engineer and a Plague Reaver to help clear the board of Drake's Hate Bears. He removes 2 Chalice of the Void. Drake has no sideboard changes. In this game, Drake's opening hand contains a Wasteland, Flagstones of Trocaire, Plains, 2 Spirit of the Labyrinth, Thalia Guardian of Thraben, and an Umazawa's Jite. In this game, Ashani's opening hand contains a Curse of Misfortune, City of Traders, Swamp, Dark Ritual, Collective Brutality, and his London mulligans are Swamp and Hagra Mauling, and Drake gets to start us off. But Drake has a pre-game action, announcing and revealing Yorion as his companion. He eyes Ashani to see if he has another Leyline, but Ashani has no pre-games. Drake breathes a sigh of relief this time and gets to start us off. Drake plays a Flagstones of Trocaire as his land for turn. He passes the turn to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays a Swamp. He ships the turn. Drake draws and plays a Plains. He casts Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. He ends his turn. Ashani draws and plays a City of Traders. He casts Collective Brutality, discarding a card to pay the additional Escalate cost. He chooses to give Thalia -2/2 and have Drake reveal his hand, discarding any instant or sorceries of Ashani's choice. Drake reveals no instants or sorceries, and Thalia dies. All through, Ashani passes the turn. Drake draws and plays a Wasteland. He sacrifices Wasteland, destroying City of Traders. He casts a Spirit of the Labyrinth. He gives the turn back to Ashani. Ashani draws and plays an Ancient Tomb. He casts a Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He taps Ancient Tomb to help cast Curse of Misfortunes, enchanting Drake. He ships the turn back. Drake draws and plays a Field of Ruin. He moves to combat and attacks Ashani with Spirit of the Labyrinth. Ashani takes it, and in his second main phase, Drake activates Field of Ruin, destroying Ancient Tomb. Then Drake fetches up a Snow-Covered Plains, and Ashani fetches up a Swamp, both onto the battlefield. Drake ends his turn. During his upkeep, Ashani's Curse of Misfortune triggers. He fetches up a Curse of Death's Hold attached to Drake. It enters, killing Spirit of the Labyrinth. Ashani draws and casts a Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He casts Karn, the Great Creator. He activates Karn's second ability, adding a Liquid Metal Coating from his sideboard into his hand. He passes the turn to Drake. Drake draws and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He casts Seasoned Dungeoneer. It enters, and Drake takes the initiative. He ventures into the Undercity's first room, fetching up a Snow-Covered Plains into his hand. All through, he ships the turn. During his upkeep, Ashani's Curse of Misfortune triggers. He fetches up an Overwhelming Splendor, enchanting Drake. Drake's Seasoned Dungeoneer becomes a 1/1 with no abilities, then gets -1/-1 through Curse of Death's Hold, and dies. Ashani draws and casts a Liquid Metal Coating. He activates Liquid Metal Coating, turning one of Drake's planes into an artifact. He then activates Karn's first ability, turning the artifact planes into a creature, killing it. Ashani gives the turn to Drake. During his upkeep, Drake ventures into the Lost Well. He scries 2, sending both to the bottom. He draws for turn and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He casts a Serenity. He passes the turn to Ashani. During his upkeep, Curse of Misfortune triggers and Ashani declines to search. He draws and activates Liquid Metal Coating, turning Serenity into an artifact. He activates Karn's first ability, turning Serenity into an artifact creature. He casts Collective Brutality, choosing to give Serenity -2/2 until the end of turn. Serenity dies, and Ashani ships the turn back to Drake. During his upkeep, Drake ventures into the arena, but has no creatures to goad. He draws and plays the Plains. He pays 3 to put Yorion, Sky Nomad, into his hand. He casts an Umazawa's Jite. He ends his turn. During his upkeep, Curse of Misfortune triggers, but Ashani fails to find. He draws and casts a Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He casts Plague Reaver. Ashani moves to his end step, Plague Reaver triggers, but he has no other creatures to sacrifice. He gives the turn to Drake. During his upkeep, Drake ventures into the archives and draws a card. He draws for turn and plays a Plains. With nothing else, he passes the turn. During his upkeep, Ashani declines to search through Curse of Misfortune. He draws and moves to combat. He attacks Drake with Plague Reaver. Drake takes it, and in his second main phase, Ashani plays a Hagra Brood Pit into play tapped. He activates Liquid Metal Coating, turning Drake's Plains into an artifact. He then activates Karn's first ability, turning the artifact Plains into a creature, killing it. Ashani moves to his end step, Plague Reaver stands alone, and then he ships the turn to Drake. During his upkeep, Drake ventures into the Throne of the Dead 3. He reveals the top 10 cards and puts Athalia, Guardian of Thraben, onto the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters. He draws and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He ends his turn. During his upkeep, Curse of Misfortune triggers and Ashani declines to search. He draws and moves to combat. He attacks Drake with Plague Reaver, dealing 6 damage. He remembers to take the initiative this time and ventures into the first room of the Undercity, fetching up a Snow-Covered Swamp into his hand. In his second main phase, Ashani plays the Snow-Covered Swamp. He activates Liquid Metal Coating, turning Drake's Plains into an artifact. He then activates Karn's first ability, turning the artifact Plains into a creature, killing it. With Plague Reaver still just chilling, Ashani passes the turn. Drake draws and moves to combat. He attacks Ashani with Thalia. In response, Ashani flashes in an Opposition Agent. Ashani blocks with the Opposition Agent. Both creatures die, and Drake ships the turn. During his upkeep, Ashani declines the Curse of Misfortune trigger and then ventures into the Forge. He puts 2+1/+1 counters onto Plague Reaver. He draws and plays a Swamp. He activates Karn's first ability, turning Liquid Metal Coating into a creature. He moves to combat and attacks Drake with Plague Reaver and Liquid Metal Coating. Drake takes it all, dies, and Ashani wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what a match. In Game 1, Drake was able to keep Ashani tapped down while playing out his Stoneforge Mystic, and then ended it by applying Cauldron Complete to Ashani's face. In Games 2 and 3, Ashani was able to battle back. He made the right adjustments to draw out the games long enough until he was able to combo off with Leyline of the Void plus Helm of Obedience, or have things locked down to a point where there was no hope for Drake to come back. Well, we hope you enjoyed this Legacy match. Would you have played something differently? What deck would you like to see next? Let us know in the comments below. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.